the desert of the real.
Welcome to the Desert of the Real. I'm your host, Jason Dietz, and joined with me is your hanger-wielding, gun-slinging co-host,
Ryan Hudson.
The Desert of the Real is a movie podcast where I force my co-host, Ryan Hudson, to watch terrible movies, as in this week, that he has refused to watch because they're terrible, but not this one. We watched for this week Birdemic, Shock and Terror, which is just a masterpiece.
Okay, hold on. You know what? Let's not abuse the word masterpiece.
Well, you'll realize how it's a masterpiece by the time we're done with this episode, because this episode, I'm playing the Ryan Hudson, which is the defender of the movie. And I'm looking forward to this. Ryan is playing the Jason Dietz, which is the bitter, angry old troll under the bridge that hates everything and everyone. We're two English language arts high school teachers with graduate degrees, and we attempt to use our academic training to dig deeply into movies. We explore the creativity, which we've got a ton of in this movie, am I right? Philosophy, there's a lot of depth to this one. Film studies, the cinematography, the CGI, just mind-blowing. The sound design.
Oh my gosh.
Editing, magnificent. And the ethics, the ethics are palpable in this movie. And so in our films, generally, that's what we're looking for. And we push our listeners to think critically about their entertainment. Thank you so much for coming, for listening to our show. Thank you for always listening to our show. And if you're new to the show, this episode most likely is not going to be anything like any of the other episodes. So if you like this episode, that's unfortunate because there won't be another one like it. But if you don't like it, you should listen to another one of our episodes, which are more apropos to what we do on this podcast. So, Ryan Hudson, the bitter, angry old person, what are your initial thoughts about this really magnificent piece of cinema?
Okay, so a couple things. If you are listening to this episode, you either are diehard fans, you just listen to whatever, which we love you, but
we do actually.
You stumbled into this podcast because you are already a fan of Birdemic, maybe.
You're the other one.
Or
well, then welcome.
Welcome. We're glad you're here. Or I guess you're my parents, but
hi mom, hi dad.
But Birdemic is famously one of the best, worst movies ever made, type of thing.
Yeah, it is. It has an enormous cult following.
Yeah. Okay, here's the thing, though. I watched this by myself, and I think that's the biggest difference for these type of movies. Because, like I said in the last episode, I have a buddy who's, for his bachelor party, we watched The Room, which is another famous so bad it's good type of thing. And I'm struggling with this idea because I know it's fun because I showed my film class a clip from it today because I'm like, guys, I was forced to watch this movie because of Dietz over there, and we watched a part, and it was for just a few minutes. I was like, we were all in it together, and it was
heaven.
Yeah, but I'm like, but by myself, this was like torture.
Oh,
it's like Mystery Science Theater without the puppets or anyone else. No. It's just you watching that bad movie.
So here's the problem, right? I feel like you've missed the bigger metaphor in Birdemic.
Oh,
this is actually a really powerful
You can't even say the sentence.
I don't know how you say some of the stuff you do on a regular. It's really a powerful message about, global warming.
Yeah.
It's kind of subtle in
got a
this movie, but
thing or two to say about
global warming. There's stuff about capitalism.
Oh, is
There's
there?
Stuff, yeah,
You know
about sexism.
Oh, I don't know about that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest message of this movie is in terms of the metaphor, is it's a warning about the digital age that we live in and the dangers that we're facing if we're not aware of them.
Because people could have tools to make movies, I suppose.
Okay, so that's just a bitter, angry thing to say. I think that if we assume that James Nugent made these choices on purpose because he had a message that he wanted to get across to us, I think we see a whole different movie here. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, he just sucks as a director because this and that and whatever petty thing that you're going to say. But I think if we assume that he made these choices on purpose, there's a rich commentary that we can dig into here that I'll get to later. But go ahead.
Well, did you know that there are sequels to this?
I did, and I was actually going to bring that up. Well, what we've learned so far in this podcast is that only great movies get sequels, right? So we think about Star Wars, for example. Star Wars got sequels.
Some really good ones.
The sequels got sequels, right?
Yeah,
so that indicates it's really a great movie, right?
Sure.
And we've got The Hobbit got...
You know what?
Got sequels. There's, 3 sequels.
Wait, I know you use it as a joke, but you said Birdemic was going to make
movies get sequels.
Battle of the Five Armies look like a... No. It is, makes...
Trilogies. Let's say trilogies. Only great movies get trilogies. We've got Back to the Future. We got The Godfather. Am I right? We got Matrix to a lesser extent. There's a lot of problems there.
Yeah, actually.
But, Birdemic. We got to put Birdemic in that same conversation. If we're being honest with the Birdemic trilogy, we're talking about it in the same, conversation. I haven't seen the other two.
I don't think you ever should.
I started watching the second one, unedited, and then I stopped for reasons.
Yeah.
So I do know that this trilogy gets more edgy, which is kind of crazy because this one is pretty edgy already. If we're talking about pushing the boundaries of filmmaking. We see things in Birdemic that we've never seen before.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that.
Well,
all right,
we can get into that.
Let me just go off my notes.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get into your notes.
My first thing I wrote just says establishing shots.
Sure. We've got the long drive in the car right at the start.
So in a movie about global warming, it's a lot of driving cars around.
Exactly. He's using the vehicle of the vehicle to kind of reinforce this message. Like, is he going to get attacked by the birds that are pissed off about global warming? I think so, because we've got 3 minutes of driving at the start. Also, I want us to realize this is a direct nod to Tolkien here. Because Tolkien, as we've watched in the last couple of weeks, we have these extended travel scenes. I think he's just been influenced by Peter Jackson's work and by Tolkien. Like we really appreciate these long, never-ending travels.
All right. Okay, I gotta cut you off at some point.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so cinema was so new about 100 years ago.
Sure.
That people had to discover things that would work and wouldn't work. So the Kuleshov effect, which we've talked about many times on this podcast, which is about how our brain can connect one shot to another shot and understand the connections here. That became a thing because in the day, as in the early days of film, people assumed you needed to see everything. Like a play. You needed to see them walk all across stage to open the door. Right. Where in movie you can cut that out.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a video essay that's great by Nerdwriter1, who's one of the best on YouTube, where he talks about Steven Soderbergh, who directed at least a lot of movies, but the Ocean's 11 movies, and
another trilogy we didn't bring up. Yeah.
Sure, and there's a part in Ocean's where George Clooney just sits down in a chair and starts talking about getting a loan from a bank, and the guy who made the video was talking about. Usually you'd see an establishing shot of the building on the outside or the city and then the building. But we don't even need that.
Right.
Sit down. We know what he's doing.
We get it.
So this movie, let's get our character, I made a list. At least one time. Getting out of the car. Walking down the street. Ordering food. All of these things we didn't need to see.
Okay, but what I think that you're actually trying to say is Nugent here is giving a nod to the roots of film, right?
No.
He's recognizing and homaging where it came from.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what's going on here.
He's saying, I recognize that my art owes this.
Let's talk about a couple other film stuff here.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Sound mixing.
Yes. Fantastic. I think
stop, because there's actually things.
No, it's like tied to the purpose of this film. But go ahead and be bitter, and then I'll help you see.
Okay. At a certain point, actually only a few years ago, the Oscars combined them, but there was sound mixing and sound editing. Two different things technically. None of them are in this movie. So
right, because we just talked about it. It's an homage.
The Google definition about sound mixing is combining and manipulating multiple audio sources. Like, you can't have background sound be too loud, for example. Or you want sound to carry on from one shot to the next shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so all the audio levels are the same. There's not like one randomly loud.
Like walking, for example.
Exactly.
Walking sounds.
That's sound mixing. And here, let's go even deeper here. There's something called an L cut and a J cut.
Oh, wow.
And they're basically opposite versions of the same type of edit. Where an L cut, let me double check. Okay, an L cut is you hear something in a movie and it cuts to another thing, but you're still hearing that sound trickle into the next shot.
Sure.
J cut's the opposite. You hear something first, and then it cuts to whatever is making that sound. A funny example is there's a movie called House of Gucci about like the Gucci family and stuff, where the one guy, the whatever uncle, he's gonna yell but you hear the sound of a car horn, and it's kind of funny, and it cuts to the shot of the guy honking a horn. Okay, in this movie, Birdemic, that does not get used at all. In fact, even on a telephone conversation, which is the easiest place to use L and J cuts, we hear the sentence being said, stop. Cut to the other person on the phone. The sentence is being said. Audio stops. To the next part of the conversation. That's, stuff in this movie. Anyway.
Okay, so that's a good segue to what I feel like. What? I'm trying to be serious about this piece of film that has been made. So, as I mentioned, I feel like this film has 4 main social axes it's trying to grind. So what you're talking about here is part of the 4th one, like the dangers of the digital age, right? So we see over and over in this film this repeated awkwardness that you're talking about with the dialogue, with the sound mixing.
Yeah, go on.
Stop. And so I think Nugent is trying to warn us desperately that if we don't disconnect, our ability to interact with other people is going to be harmed. I think you can agree that we can see this in our classes. Like we're having a hard time because of our digital devices. So this film, from the perspective of warning us about the digital age, is a very effective piece of Like, watch out. I can give you a lot of examples, like the conversations on the phone. They're very stilted and difficult. That's because we don't know how to do them anymore.
Okay.
If we don't cut it off, we don't know. Like, the dating, is very awkward in this movie. I feel like that's an intentional choice made by our director because he's worried that we're going to lose the ability to interact with people of the opposite sex. We've got the dancing scene.
Oh my gosh, the dancing scene.
I mean, the dancing, we don't like.
What was the lyric?
These people have big mamas in the kitchen cooking.
Hanging out with my family.
Hanging out. Right, okay.
3 minutes.
Okay, right. But that's a choice that this director made, I feel, on purpose. Because we don't know how to interact with each other face to face. And if you look at their dance moves, they're very stilted and difficult.
It's
hard to watch.
Director told them to just dance and then...
Well, no, yes. I feel like the director told them what we need to capture is the loss of the ability to dance, to interact with each other that is coming if we don't get off our devices.
This is also made before smartphones. 2008, that's when the iPhone came out.
Right. And this is a visionary director. He could see that this is what was going to happen. This is what dating was going to look like.
Yeah.
This is what dancing would look like. Phone conversations would look like. This is a prescient film. It saw the future, is warning us. Yeah. So I'm glad that you brought up the sound because I feel like that's an intentional choice by this director.
All right.
He has a vision. He wants to warn us.
You know what?
Go ahead.
Okay, speaking of
What
sound,
else do you got?
let's just talk about some of my favorite lines I wrote down.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of them.
Like in the beginning when they're first talking. You look familiar. Did you go to this high school? Yeah, I went there. So, where are you from here? Like the next line. Yes. Hey, what's with all the noise in here? I just scored the big fish. Really? How much was the sale? $1 million.
That's a big fish. That ties into the capitalism thing. We'll talk about that later, but keep going with your...
Here's some more lines.
These are great lines.
They're breaking into the window. And we never see the window.
No.
That's just kind of a funny one.
Yeah.
Hey, look, an old man on a bridge. That's like the best one in the movie, actually. Gotta go, I hear a mountain lion.
Yeah, I feel like these are very effective.
Anyway, the last one I wrote was, oh look, a fishing pole. Hey look, a stove.
I could go catch some fish.
Oh wait, lovers on the moon. Yeah. That's another one I wrote down.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think, yeah.
You know what? I actually don't know if this is true. Couldn't afford to rent a Mustang, so they hired an actor who already had a Mustang. That's gotta be true.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's part of the... I mentioned that this film also has a lot to say about capitalism. That's part of this, part of the message. So for sure.
Yeah.
I think Nugent has done everything perfectly in this film.
Yeah.
To deliver the message. I mean, we could talk about the capitalism.
Let's talk about the capitalism.
Yeah. I mean, so this philosophy of the real capitalism is a philosophy. I feel like this film does an excellent job capturing the dangers of going too far, like late stage capitalism, right?
Yes.
So the most excited we see our main character in the entire film is when he's closing this deal, right? He's like, yes, woo! And that's as excited as he gets. It's not when he's going out with, this Victoria's Secret model.
Yeah.
It's not we'll talk about the sexism later on, but there's a scene in here that, has obviously got something to say about, the male-female situation. But we see the cashier, the owner of the of the gas station is gouging people.
Who's like just gotta be the real life cashier that they just asked if they could film a scene.
Absolutely.
Minutes before that.
Right, and he's like, no, gas is now $100. What? Are you crazy? So all of the times that money and
the guy who robs them.
Right. I was gonna bring that up, but go ahead. Yeah.
Sell me all your money. He says, "Sell me all your gas."
Yeah, all of the gas.
And then, of course, he dies in a very
brutally.
funny way. Yeah,
Brutally.
and then they leave the gas. Did you notice that? They're just driving without the gas.
I think that's a deliberate choice. He's moving away from this capitalistic model that has governed our society for so long. He's rejecting the expensive gas.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a brilliant choice.
Yeah. Okay, I was on a bus. We were just at State Esports, coming back from State. I was on a bus watching this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's nowhere to go, nowhere to turn.
You just had to absorb all the greatness, the beauty of it.
Yeah.
So, and I forgot his best friend. The main character's best friend is very materialistic.
Kinda.
He ends up, guess what? He dies. And I think that the reason he dies, in part, is because he's so wrapped up in the capitalistic ideal of our society that he can't get out. He can't escape it. And so Nugent is warning us, if we cannot step away from this materialistic focus on cars and these $1 million deals and whatever, we're going to die.
Well, you're forgetting a key part of this movie.
Oh, it's perhaps
the double date where they go see an Inconvenient Truth.
Oh yes,
go on a double date.
We haven't talked about the global warming.
But the friend said that he's changed his ways. The documentary made him change his way of thinking.
Yeah, that's a good
But then
point.
he still died. I don't remember him dying.
He died in the car with his girlfriend.
Oh, yeah!
As they're driving to the lighthouse that his girlfriend owns.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, what bigger statement can we have than this woman owns a lighthouse? Who owns a lighthouse? That's just corrupt capitalistic thinking. And I think that at the very end, in that very touching scene where her best friend dies, she says, "Forgive them." And I feel like I felt that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because...
Go on.
Sorry, I'm getting choked up here. It's just such an emotional moment.
Yeah.
Even in her death, she's recognizing this is my fault. I'm the one that has been so focused on the capitalism, getting mine and what I wanted, that it's really is my fault that I've died. And so I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. You know what? Let me go over my pro.
You're one pro. You could only come up with one thing.
Here's my pro. The grandma, not the grandma, it's her mom, the character.
The Victoria's Secret model.
Her mom is like, I think someone's actual grandma. It's the best acting, but I think she's just genuinely talking about like how she normally talks every day, all day.
Yeah, and that may very well be.
And yeah, it's like she wasn't even in a movie, really. They were just filming her talk about her day.
Yeah.
You know?
And that ties into kind of the sexist undertones of this film. I feel like...
Jump into the sexist undertones.
Well, I feel like this movie, like, if we're being honest, like, the most reprehensible character in the film is his friend. Right?
Yeah.
The male character, all he thinks about is money and sex.
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw this. Did you know there's, like... It's kind of a sex scene with the friend.
Yes, I
and
did.
It's mostly awkward.
Not most. Dang it! Wait, I think it illustrates this sexist ideal, right?
Yeah.
The fact that
Here's what I said. This scene. The most embarrassing thing about that is this Imagine Peace sign in the background. And you literally get this John Lennon ripoff of Imagine going on in the score.
Well, I don't. It's an homage. I don't think it's a ripoff.
And like the entire, it's like the whole shot is framed, so that's just the main focus.
Because peace.
And like the girl later on is wearing a shirt that says "Imagine Peace."
Yeah.
You know, it's
powerful.
It is.
I mean, we've got this awkward.
Let me check out the website actually.
Very awkward. Scene of intimacy here that we learn about later on. This guy's just really kind of a sexist individual, right? And he gets in the end, he gets a gruesome death. Whereas the much more sensitive, intelligent, I guess I would say, main character doesn't die in the end because, as we see in one scene, the Victoria's Secret model, the main female lead, says, "Guys are just usually into me for my looks and for sex, but you really respect me." And I feel like the main message of this film, in terms of the male-female dynamic, is that's where we need to be moving. All of the characters in the movie that are not that way, they die, and our main character survives. The one potential discrepancy there is that literally the next scene after she says that is a scene in a hotel room where they are, making out.
Yeah.
So, but I would like to point out that in that scene, it's the woman that's making the initial move, not the man. And so I feel like this genuine expression of our need as a society to move into a more equitable role between the genders is very powerfully expressed in this film.
Okay. Let me read what Google says. 2 fun things. While the film is often seen as a comedic disaster, its use of Imagine Peace can be interpreted as, perhaps unintentionally, commentary on the human desire for peace and a better world.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's what I'm saying.
Also, the director, James... What is it? Nguyen? Has explained that one of his inspirations for this film was the anti-war movie Apocalypse Now, and that the birds' eventual succession of attacks was intended to give humans a second chance to improve their relationship with the environment.
Yeah, I think we can definitely see that here.
I was thinking, this was kind of like Apocalypse Now. Yeah. That's why the birds literally make airplane sound and explode on the ground. It's like the napalm scene in Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, I mean that's a clear nod, I think, to that Coppola masterpiece.
Yeah,
we can certainly see the similarities here.
Okay.
While you're thinking, I just wanted to point out the 2 main characters in this film went on to have great, successful careers.
Yeah.
In film, like Natalie, the character played by Whitney Moore, went on to make great films like Evil Bong 888.
Oh yeah.
And Yeti, A Love Story.
Oh,
and I think
nice.
that both of those films kind of showcase her true talent. And Alan Bogg, who plays...
I looked this up.
The main... Yeah, he plays in such famous award-winning films as Room Full of Spoons and Ghost Shark 2. So I think this really kind of launched the career of these 2 actors, and we've seen some good stuff from them.
You know what? That guy, I don't know who he was. He's somewhere in the Book of Boba Fett, too.
Oh, yeah.
Which...
Yeah, there you go.
Isn't very good.
He's got some Star Wars.
I guess.
I mean, he's got all of these different, showcasing his range of acting abilities. And he's not just this the stilted character that Nugent asked him to play in this film for the message about our digital age that he wanted to get across.
Yeah.
He has some chops.
Mm-hmm. I guess here's the thing. I even wrote down that I was trying to find something. They're foils for each other. He gets the successful sale, $1 million. She gets a phone call. Victoria's Secret. That's how it's done. You know.
Absolutely.
So their success, I don't even know. Like it makes them blind of the economy or something.
Yeah, it's a capitalistic. Yeah.
It brings them together, but then they still live after this.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we don't really hear anything more about their obvious, massive success financially, because our two main characters have realized the barrenness of the capitalistic ideal.
Yeah.
And
Did they adopt those kids at the end?
And that's another thing. Like, we just need to give peace a chance. I think.
Yeah. What? Yeah, the birds realized they've changed.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
And
okay.
That was a beautiful moment there at the end when, the birds that I feel like are representative of the dangers of all of these things, like of capitalism, sexism, the digital age, like this prescient warning that Nugent's giving us. The birds fly off. Because they recognize that at least in these two and the children that are associated with them, they've gotten the message. We need to stop global warming, stop capitalism, stop sexism, get off our phones, pick up a fishing pole, and go catch some fish that our kids won't eat.
My. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So beautiful ending, powerful ending.
Okay. So at one point, I just have in my note, the news reporter is too low, which is funny.
She's got some great lines too. Like,
did you write down some of?
Yeah, I did. Like, the polar bears are dying due to the difficulty of finding enough food, such as seals. I mean, that's powerful.
That is powerful.
Imagine being a polar bear and not being able to find food. I mean, we can empathize with the plight of these people.
That's true.
I think the fact that they explode on impact.
Yes.
These birds.
Go on.
I think that's what global warming has done to the birds. They've become, they're no longer these, docile species. They've turned explosive. I don't think Nugent wanted us to think of birds as literally explosive, but it's more a metaphor of the explosiveness of the situation that we're in right now if we don't make changes to how we're approaching, like I said, global warming, capitalism, sexism, the dangers of the digital age. It's an explosive situation.
Well, should we talk about global warming?
Yeah.
Okay. It is estimated that the global average temperatures are estimated to rise 1.5 degrees Celsius, 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, above pre-industrial levels by the first half of the 2030s. Deets. There's a reason the director wanted to bring it up over and over again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's more subtle than that. I don't think he beats us over the head with it necessarily, but
the planet has already warmed 2 degrees Fahrenheit since 1850, Deets.
Wow.
And this warming has caused a range of serious problems like rising sea levels, more frequent extreme weather events, and threats to ecosystems and human health. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I think we get that very clearly from this really great, underappreciated film.
That's why... Oh my gosh. The first... okay. I don't even know. Okay. Did you know the birds don't even come into this movie until 47 minutes?
I feel like, yeah. Because he's got to establish all of the other key elements of his message to us, I think. But yeah, I did actually notice that on a second watch. The birds don't show up until after the makeout session that's initiated by our female lead. Yeah.
So there's a movie I love called Super 8.
I do also love Super 8.
I'm
glad that we're talking about these great films
in the
context of Birdemic.
Super 8, it's kids in the 80s who are making their own movie, and there's science fiction stuff going on around them. The kid who's directing the movie is obsessed with production value. The train is coming, production value. Look at the crashed train, production value. The director of this movie, he's like, look, production value. And it's just a pumpkin parade for like 5 minutes. Let's look at this pumpkin. Let's look at the parade in the movie. Does it have anything to do with the movie? No. How long do we have to stare at a pumpkin carnival sign? And then they walk around. And then there's a parade. That's not production value. That's just
Well, see, here again, just being bitter about your inability to capture the metaphor of this film, I feel
What's
like
the metaphor?
Oh, okay. Are they a little long? Perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the overall power of the pumpkin parade scene
Yeah.
is worth. I'm choked up again. I think it's worth the message that we get out of the pumpkin scene. I mean,
Yeah. Which is.
well, we're back to our four standbys, right? So
Yeah.
we've got capitalism on display here.
Yeah.
This is the danger of capitalism. We get stuck in, look.
This giant pumpkin. I'm going to spend all my money.
Right, and the pumpkin's a metaphor for,
No.
for the things that we're chasing.
Oh.
With our capitalistic ideals, we're chasing these things. Do you know what happens to a carved pumpkin?
What happens to a
It
carved
just
pumpkin?
kind of melts and implodes on itself.
That's true.
And so he's trying to get us to think about, sure, we got our Amazon cart. Yeah, those things would be great. If we get them, though, they might look beautiful for a moment.
Yeah.
But they're just going to implode on themselves, like the pumpkins will. So yeah, I think that's 6-7 minutes well spent to get that message across.
Okay, I have my own double-sided argument here. Do you know who David Lean is?
David Lean, I do not.
David Lean is a film director who created genuine masterpieces like Lawrence of Arabia, The Bridge Over the River Kwai.
All those are comparable, I feel.
Okay, so David Lean has a quote, and he said he once told his director of photography, "You should be able to cut out any frame of a roll of film and put a picture frame around it and hang it on your wall and admire it."
Yeah.
Kind of the idea of where you get the phrase "every frame a painting" type of thing.
For sure, yeah.
This movie did not agree with that idea. But here's my own counter argument. You know David Lynch?
Yes.
David Lynch, who created Twin Peaks.
Such masterpieces as WTF. I think that's the subtitle for all of his films.
Yeah. Okay, David Lynch. Let me see if I can get my David Lynch impression. So David Lynch, his idea is like, why does everything need to be explained? And then you have like Twin Peaks, a guy like mopping the floor for like 10 minutes or something.
Yeah.
He's like, why do I need to tell the audience what to think? That's David Lynch.
Yeah.
So it's this movie, if you were to be generous, which
I feel like it doesn't require generosity.
it's like you would say it's very Lynchian, where it's like,
Sure.
You come up with what these are for. Like,
Sure. Absolutely.
I don't need to tell you why there's a pumpkin festival.
Yeah, and like David Lynch is a highly decorated
He is
filmmaker. I think Nugent deserves some of those same accolades, but he's just kind of been. I feel like this is an example of the internet gone wild, which is ironically enough one of his main messages, like the digital age.
What digital stuff is being?
Well, he's warning us, like, because of the cell phones, we can't have a normal conversation. Because of the cell phones, we don't know how to dance. The progression of the romance is it's because we're spending so much time on our phones.
Yeah.
If you look at the progression of the romance between these two, it's very awkward. It's difficult to watch.
Yeah.
I think that's on purpose. I think we can both agree that that's clearly a danger that he's trying to warn us of. And just in case we don't get it, in the first 47 minutes, like Lynch said before him, why does he have to tell us? Well, I think Nugent has some pity on his audience.
Yeah.
He's worried that we're not going to get the message. And so what has been an undercurrent in the first 45 minutes now becomes a visible danger in the birds, the digital birds.
With the birds that all sound like seagulls and could flap like this. I showed my wife. She was watching something else, and I was watching this on my phone because I, at that point, was home. And she says, and I quote, watching the bird scene, "Why does it sound like that? Why does it look like that? Why are they such bad actors?" And that was for maybe 10 seconds of watching the movie.
And you, of course, told her these are all artistic choices made by the director.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Actually, you know what's funny? There's a movie that's new that's not like this movie at all. It's a romance drama mystery. It's called Where the Crawdads Sing. It was very popular a couple years ago. There is a shot in that movie where a bunch of birds take off and fly, and it's basically like the Birdemic birds.
Yeah, see.
And it's like...
We've just got...
It's not supposed to look like that.
Yeah. So we see the influence this film has already had. I feel like...
Yes.
I feel like the real influence is going to be, decades down the road once the internet has... I mean, we saw this with Jar Jar Binks, right?
Sure.
The initial reaction by the people who couldn't see the vision and were blinded by this, not my Star Wars, faded, and then the appreciation for Jar Jar Binks and the prequels finally emerged, decades later. I feel like that's what's going to happen with Birdemic and the other two films. We're going to finally recognize the brilliance of these films and embrace them. It might not be in my lifetime. Like great
Imagine aliens.
Great artists are
movie.
Frequently not recognized in their lifetimes,
Okay, there's this. Actually, this is mostly just for you, but there's a part where they're by the ocean, and the guy goes, "All life came from the sea. Look at us. We're made of water." And there was a motivational, a motivational speaker came to our school.
Sure. I mean,
and there's a point where he said, "What is water? We're all made of water." And and talked about other things too, but everyone was like, "What is he talking about?" That made me think of that.
Yeah.
Remember when that happened?
I do remember.
That was a lot of fun.
That was a seed. That was probably the most memorable thing. Was that this school year?
That was this year, yeah.
That was probably the most memorable thing that happened.
No, he said other stuff that was more memorable.
Assembly, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, I think, like I said, what's going to happen with this film in the future. It's going to be one that survives the test of time.
I love there's a part where they're like, "Oh, people, let's check out if they're dead or something." And they are. And then just to the side of the screen, you just see cars passing.
Yeah. That's the callousness of the digital age. Yeah, every frame in this film is just is servicing these messages that Nugent has for
like
us.
the clapping.
Oh,
the stop clapping. Cut to other people clapping again. And then one of my actual favorite moments, the boss, he's just pointing at people. You.
Yeah. I mean that scene again with the capitalism, the emptiness of celebrating financial victories is so much less than embracing the ongoing life on the planet, which is in danger. I think we can agree. Okay, that brings me to one of my only talking points. This movie... We've been talking for a while. Right. This movie is actually an example of a sub-genre of horror film. It is called shock and terror, after all. Yeah. Of eco-horror. Eco-terror, yeah. Yeah. The birds are nature and they want revenge. So, here are some other eco-terror movies that I Googled. I've not heard of a lot of these. But you actually have Hitchcock's The Birds. Yeah, for sure. Which has got to be a inspiration. Oh, yeah, for sure. And I looked up where that movie came from, and it's just based on a short story. But when Hitchcock was living in California, apparently there was some birds that, like ran into windows. Like, there was something where a lot of birds ran into a lot of windows at one point. Yeah. And it inspired Hitchcock. Yeah, I didn't get the message, 30 years ago with Hitchcock. We have to have a new Birds, and I think yeah, I think we can recognize the Hitchcockian feel of Birdemic.
Okay, here's there's a lot of eco horror I've not heard of, but here's one: The Happening. Did you see that one?
I did not.
With M. Night Shyamalan, his first rated R movie.
Oh, I should?
Well, no.
Oh, okay.
Unless you love this movie, then you probably will like that movie.
I think we understand my passion for
Yes.
this film at this
Here's
point.
some actual good ones, though. Keep in mind I've skipped a lot of Godzilla. Why'd you roll your eyes?
I don't think we can talk about Birdemic and Godzilla in the same
We
conversation.
shouldn't, but here we are.
Because they're not really comparable.
Yeah.
Godzilla's just kind of a surface level.
Right.
Oh no, we nuked something.
Okay.
There's a monster.
Okay.
There's not
Another
the
one that's
richness.
actually good is Annihilation.
That one is excellent.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah, that's a similar. I mean, not similar at all, but the idea of eco horror. We got to take care of our planet. That's the similar
Yeah,
thread
for
there.
sure. Yeah.
And the other one that I think, arguably Jaws, in a not as
I don't
clear
think
way.
so, yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
it's
think
more
I
like
would say that.
yeah, that's more capitalism though. That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
connection though.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's so great about Birdemic is we have these great films like Jaws and Annihilation that are kind of just focused on one aspect of the human condition. Birdemic really does a great job pulling in all of these disparate,
No, we're gonna get some listener to be like, man, he really liked that movie.
all of these disparate threads of problems and just weaves them together seamlessly in just a powerful, powerful way. So
Yeah. I literally have only one more note. She's here. Okay, this movie does bring up a very interesting question. Naive sincerity, or the outsider art, is what I've found. There are movies made purposefully bad, like Sharknado. You know what I mean?
yeah, I've seen that.
But this movie is not made purposely bad. It's made genuinely,
How do you know that?
because it just has to be.
No, my whole argument for this film
Is
is
that
that
it's
all
all-
of these have been made specific choices.
Okay, so another comparison director-wise is Ed Wood. Ed Wood, there's a Tim Burton movie. It's like the one Tim Burton movie I haven't seen about this director who just made famously bad movies.
Sure.
And now it's he's kind of like an icon at that point.
Like the Plan 9 from Outer Space, I think is his
Oh yeah.
is his magnum opus, and yeah, there are some comparisons to Birdemic for sure.
And of course, Tommy Wiseau, who directed The Room, where it's like he kind of clearly wanted to make a genuine piece of art, and he got The Room, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of... I mean, but the other thing is, this movie is also deeply personal, and you can tell because the thing comes up over and over and over again about climate and the ecosystem or whatever.
In very subtle ways. Yeah.
Yes, very subtle ways. So it's like this idea of naive sincerity compared to like movies that are made better, I guess. Like,
See, again, I feel like you're buying into the digital age
yeah,
propaganda
I
against
guess-
this film.
guess so.
Like I feel like that James Nugent has Apple on the run. And Android on the run with this film, and they're desperate to prevent the power of this film from being realized, and so they've created this false narrative about this film that it's
all
bad, it's like
big business.
editing
Editing,
sucks,
yeah.
the sound design sucks. And
I'm
I think-
pretty sure the
I
director
bet.
wrote and directed this movie.
Yeah,
and edited. You know,
those are the great ones, and so I feel
are
like
true auteur
if we trace the money trail back from all of these people that are bagging on this film, I bet we'll find a big tech giant behind all of these comments. It's just that powerful. It's so terrifying to these tech giants. It's really a tragedy that this film has been, just kind of sidelined in this conversation of greatest films of all time. So, yeah. I have a couple more things.
Yeah. What else is there, Dietz?
Well, okay.
Okay, for the record, Dietz told me he wrote like one of the most notes for this movie.
Yeah, I've got a double-sided.
And I'm looking at his paper. Look at all these notes.
There's so much greatness here.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Well, I mean, I've covered most of it, but...
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I had completely forgotten this film's commentary on the military-industrial complex.
Yeah?
It's a rich critique because... I don't know if you noticed this, but I'm sure our listeners noticed that when our two main male characters are firing their weapons, they don't have a very high hit rate.
No, they do. No, they shoot so many bullets, don't need to reload.
Well, right. And so there's that, like the sense that we can just keep shooting and shooting and shooting, and it doesn't really impact anyone. That's military-industrial complex.
That's actually, I have to appreciate that. Yeah, that's what you got.
So we've got that. But we also have this idea, like, I did a bird death count.
Did you now?
I did. There are 17 bird deaths in this film, not counting the ones that have been driven mad by global warming and had their internal chemistry changed to an explosive
remember
material.
The acid?
Yeah, oh yeah.
It just gets on those 5
it's crazy how terrifying global warming is, all these possibilities. Anyhow, so we have these 17 birds shot by our characters.
Yeah, they're
And if I didn't count the number of bullets that were shot, but I think it's in the hundreds.
It's gotta be.
And so we have this deep, rich commentary on the failure of the military-industrial complex. One of these characters is an ex-Marine, and if our system is set up to create these soldiers that can then go and use their weaponry impactfully, I think this is a clear critique of our system of military training, and the type of person that's produced by the military-industrial complex. I think we can see that pretty clearly. I had forgotten that. I'm glad you brought that up.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. So we have the scene with the bus, which I'm surprised that you didn't
mention,
because it's a powerful scene.
I think at a certain point I just stopped. I was like, there's nothing more that needs to be said about this
overwhelmingly powerful, yeah. And in fact, I saw a lot of things on a second watch that I had not noticed on the first watch. This film clearly rewards multiple.
Who doesn't now?
Multiple viewings.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
So we've got this bus scene, right? So we have these 4 characters that are trapped in a bus. This is like the false... the bus represents the real security of letting go of our capitalist ideals, right? Because people that are riding buses generally, are not as affluent as the people who are driving, Mustangs or whatever. Uh-huh. So they're in the safety of anti-capitalism, right? Okay. So what happens? We get this guy, this capitalistic, ex-military guy. And he goes into the bus and forcibly removes these people who are in the safety of the anti-capitalism.
They're trying to help, right?
Well, no, I feel like the film is trying to say that anytime we're bringing people into capitalism, it's a danger to them. And the most horrific deaths in this film happen to these people who abandon, the true anti-capitalistic stance that they had taken in the bus. Uh-huh. They turn their back on that message, and they die horrific deaths.
Yeah, very
They get
gruesome.
acided on and pecked, and in many ways, I feel like that scene is the core of this film in terms of its message with regards to capitalism. So
You almost got that one out.
I did.
They didn't have hangers. They needed the clothes hangers to protect themselves.
So, so we have that as well. So the sense that because this, if you recall, is the moment when our director switches from the metaphorical warning to the corporeal warning of the actual presence of these birds.
Yeah.
And so their initial response to this, I think we can see a lot about the dangers of giving, unshackled or modified or I don't know what the word is, technology to our children. They don't have, they just don't have defenses against them. Like these four characters in this film are very first being introduced to the birds, quote unquote, which represent the dangers of the digital age, and the only thing that they can come up with to defend themselves with are hangers, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a tragedy, and I feel like we as parents, as teachers, this film is a call to us to arm our children against the dangers of the digital age.
Yeah.
We have to do it.
We have to.
So there's that. Let me consult my notes.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of
Do you
meat
remember
to this
when
film.
the kid's mom dies or whatever?
Yeah,
and then
that's tragic.
the next scene, I'm hungry.
Right. Again, we have this desensitization that comes and is demonstrated just powerfully in this film.
Yeah.
The child's mother has died. I don't know if you recall, but in that very same scene, they're distracted by technology, right?
Yeah.
And so technology is this numbing agent that kind of pushes real, true feelings just away from us.
Yeah.
So her sadness and her crying under the truck is just wiped out by technology in the very next scene, and she kind of forgets about her mom tragically for the rest of the film.
She does.
Yeah. So just powerful stuff. So I mean, if you don't have anything else, I just want us to take a moment and dig into the final line of this film, because I feel like it does a great job calling our attention to all of the different things. So, so the final line in this film is delivered by Alan Bogg with a lot of powerful lack of emotion.
Is that our guy?
Yeah, the main
Rod.
Rod, yes, that's his. Yeah, I was referring to him by his actor name.
Yes.
He says
a household name.
As the birds, are
flying away forever.
Forever. We have another Tolkien-esque scene there where they're on the beach for a very, very long time and nothing is happening.
No, they're getting seaweed.
Well, no, I'm speaking of the very final scene.
Like during the credits?
Well, prior to the credits, there's probably a minute and a half or 2 minutes where they're just watching the birds.
Yeah.
So, again, inspired by Tolkien. He delivers this line.
Inspired by Tolkien, yeah.
He says, "I wonder why they stopped the attack." And that, I think that leaves the viewer, that forces us to think about, in our lives, what are the quote-unquote birds that are attacking us? I think the film offers several options. Global warming might be one. Our sexist society might be one. Capitalism might be one. Digital age might be one. The military-industrial complex. All of these things. So it invites us to consider in our own lives, what is going to make these birds, quote unquote, the birds of our life, stop attacking us? And
I just made a connection too. All of these are eagles. There's not a lot of different birds. Where we also see eagles famously?
Lots of places.
The United States seal.
Yeah.
Carrying the arrows. That's America. The eagles represent America.
Yeah.
You know what else we also see eagles?
Where?
Nazis had eagles. That's their thing too.
It's
all a warning about Nazism.
Sure. I mean, I feel like I haven't personally plumbed the depths of this film.
You know what?
So it might be a warning against the resurgence of Nazism or fascism.
You know what else used eagles? The Romans all over. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We just over and over we don't learn from our history, and so I feel like
that was good. That was good.
I feel like with this prescient film, this is our future history. I don't think we can deny that at this point.
That birds will attack us?
Yeah, and we'll lose the ability to interact socially in an effective way. And if we don't heed the clarion call from Birdemic to change our ways, we will not be on the beach in our Tolkien-esque scene asking, I wonder why they stopped the attack.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's all I've got to say. Do you have any?
Last week we saw the Eagles save everyone in the Battle of the Five Armies.
Another Tolkien
And
connection.
here it's just they will not save you.
No.
How many birds do you think will actually take to kill a person?
If this film is accurate, one.
Yes. Slide right through the neck.
Yeah, I mean, well, what we don't understand is just how...
Wait, we did see parrots at one point, I think.
Yeah, right at the start we did.
Those were nice birds.
Yeah, they were nice. They were just waving hi.
Yeah.
Saying hi. Yeah, I don't feel like we truly understand the bird mind and the depths of passion that birds might be driven to if we don't heed these warnings.
Yeah, well, there are... You know what? Birds are cool. Birds
awesome.
mate for life. Did you know
Some
that?
of them, yeah.
Like swans and I think geese.
Birds are my favorite animal.
And there are like crows that if a crow dies, the crows will like hold a funeral for that dead crow and stuff.
Oh, I did not know that.
Like they'll gather around and then all fly off together, stuff like that. Birds are cool.
I agree.
Birds are smart.
I love birds.
This movie made me hate birds a little bit.
If only we loved birds as much,
That's the director.
As this film suggests, we have a responsibility. I feel like
because like birds, you also see this in Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. They could peck out your eyes. That's
for sure.
But you wouldn't die from that.
Well, if they slashed, we saw this film. There's some pretty gruesome.
Is there?
Some pretty gruesome deaths. I mean, if birds, because of global warming, evolves the ability to spit acid, for example, I feel like we're in for it. I feel like because birds, I don't know if you know this, but birds vastly outnumber human beings.
Do they?
On this planet?
Mm-hmm.
So if they become able to explode on impact,
that's
if
a
they
good
become
point.
able to,
I have some chickens at home.
Yeah.
If they could explode, what are we gonna do?
Yeah. So
did you know birds used to be dinosaurs, Deets?
Yeah, I did know that.
They used to be dinosaurs.
Right. Yeah.
Birds are dinosaurs.
And like in the documentary Jurassic Park, we see that we see that they could at one point spit acid. So I mean, we may be seeing that reemerge if your kids are coming in with acid burns on them. Like Nugent,
did a bird do this?
Nugent has warned us of what's coming.
This must have been a bird.
Yeah, it must have been a bird.
Ah!
And I guess my final thing would be if we're saying it must have been a bird, it's our fault.
Yeah,
because we didn't heed the warning.
So okay, let's look at our critical thinking tools, Deets.
Sure.
If you accept the message that this movie is telling you, how is your life going to change?
That's a great question that I should have asked you. I mean, I feel like I've talked a lot.
Yeah.
Can I flip that around?
No.
Well, I mean,
burn some more tires. Spray some hairspray just into the air.
I feel like me personally, I'm already living a Nugent life.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I've rejected a lot of technology.
Do you reduce, reuse, recycle?
I don't do that. However, I kind of do because I burn most of my cardboard to warm myself in the winter.
It's
Not
reuse.
Yeah, not using fossil fuels, just renewable resources.
There you go.
So famously with my students, I'm very anti-social media.
Yeah?
So I feel like, and also as we've talked about previously with regards to, capitalism, I've recognized that it's just stuff.
Yeah?
Nothing of lasting value there. The only part of this film and its powerful message that I'm not too sure about is the message about the military.
You did have to dig deep for that one.
No. Well, no. I mean, it's all over in this film. Very clearly, he is kind of an anti-military. I don't personally think that is correct. I feel like our veterans, our soldiers, work very hard to keep us safe. So I think there's a lot of value. Maybe we've gone too far. I don't know, but I think there's a lot of value in the military.
Good.
And so, So what about you? Like, how are you becoming Nugent in your life?
Let me think about that.
Adopting the Nugent philosophy of Birdemic.
You know what? I don't really recycle a whole lot, if I'm being honest. Like, some cities or towns have like a recycling can, specific bags and stuff. We don't do that here.
Yeah, we're kind of smaller.
So it kind of goes, like, I'd have to go out of my way to recycle.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got one. We just got chickens, like I said. It's not just the appreciate bird thing. Like, now we'll get our own eggs.
Yeah. So we're exploiting the birds, is what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, I think this film is for you. I think why you weren't able to embrace it fully is because, all of the messages of the film are calling you out. Your lifestyle is not Nugent. So
there is a book I genuinely love so much called Cloud Cuckoo Land. And it's a fictional book. It's written by the same guy who wrote All the Light We Cannot See. But there is, when I was reading that book, there's a big part of it, like, a character is so worried about global warming. Yeah. And, like, it has, like, a bunch of statistics and stuff about, like, what is likely to happen. And reading that book, I was like, dang, this is kind of scary what could happen with global warming. Yeah, I highly recommend Cloud Cuckoo. It's not about global warming. There's 3 separate stories in 3 separate times. One's in the future, one's current day, one's in right before the siege of Constantinople, which is kind of cool. Oh, wow. Anyway, the point is, this movie, when I watched it, made me want to light plastic fires.
So I was right.
Yes,
we need...
That's enough Birdemic. How much okay.
Not enough.
Yeah.
we have to combat the internet and its irrational
movies
rejection of
with
Birdemic.
These important messages need to be analyzed.
I agree.
Okay, so here's the tricky thing, dear listener. This next week for us is Memorial Day.
Yeah.
In real life. So I don't know if we're going to have an episode next week. It's also like the end of school, too.
Yeah, we probably will, though.
Unless... That's the other thing. But...
We'll give it a...
What we could do, what would be funny... No, we're not in school on Friday. We did another, live
Thursday
reaction.
with no students.
That's true. Eventually, unless Dietz wants to do another his choice in between, the next scheduled episode is Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring.
Yay.
Loved by most, and I say most because Dietz is not included in that. He's watching it basically for the first time. Like, the story, you've seen them before, but you have forgotten a lot about the Lord of the Rings films.
It is possible.
Yeah, and I think...
It's been probably 25 years.
Yeah, exactly, and we'll see how you react to it. You should not watch them on ×2 speed, though.
Well, okay. I'll see. As a rule, I don't watch movies on 2x speed. Just when
I wish I could have watched Birdemic on ×2 speed.
See, just buying into the rhetoric of the bitter internet.
Let's watch him park his car, go into work.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, so did you want to do it your choice?
No, I think we should push on and get Tolkien over with. I mean, appreciate the grandeur of Tolkien.
So next week, or next episode, the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah.
We love you.
We do.
Thank you for listening to us talk about Birdemic.
And please heed the message, heed the warning.
Yeah.
And you know, don't buy into the bitter hype that's paid for by capitalistic.
Yes.
Like the
We've
major corporations.
We've already done this.
They're just trying to prevent you from enjoying Birdemic.
Think critically.
And feeling the message and the power of Birdemic shock and terror.
Shock and terror. We love you.
We do love you.
Goodbye.